Big things are happening around the world with governments and religions pushing towards a one world religion. We knew this would happen. It's prophesied it will happen. And I'll get into all that in this video. The Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi, pretty much the Chrislam Center, which also has a Jewish mosque there. And I say Chrislam because the Roman Catholic Church, as well as the Islamic Imam, they signed their Declaration of Human Fraternity not long ago. This kind of joining of peace between Islam and Catholicism. I'll get into that in a bit, but first I wanted to talk about the Abraham Accords Global Leadership Summit that just took place in Rome, of course, of all places. And again, it's more of this uniting of the religions, the Abrahamic religions, as well as all religions and all governments in this unity of peace that the Bible tells us will ultimately be ran by the Antichrist and will just be a one world control system. So the former Israeli ambassador to the UN is the host of this Abraham Accords Summit that just happened, the first of its kind, and just listen in his own words what he has to say about it.
Coming to you early in the morning from the streets of Rome, we're here to cover a first-of-its-kind meeting called the Abraham Accords Global Leadership Summit. Ambassador Duran, great to be with you once again.
Great to be here in Rome.
Tell us, what is the Abraham Accords Global Leadership Summit?
It's an amazing event where we have dozens of leaders from all around the world coming together to learn from us, the countries in the region who achieved peace, how we did it, and what we can do to help them. What we will see in this conference is an amazing coexistence of different religions, but we have the same values. And when you look at the Abrahamic Accords, how come we were able to forge such a strong bond? It all goes to the core values. The amount of cooperation is above all expectations. The number of Israelis traveling to the UAE, trade, culture, you name it. We are very proud of it, and I'm optimistic that in the near future we will see more countries joining the Abraham Accord, especially now when we have a new government, when the Likud-led government will take control in a few days. We will see that we will be able to expand the accords.
So the idea here is to expand the influence of the Abraham Accords to nations around the world?
Absolutely. And also, we are very active on the bilateral arena, but we can also take it to the multilateral arena.
So as you can see, the main goal of this whole thing is really moving towards a one world control, one world peace is how it comes on the scene at first, but ultimately leads to one world control. To quickly mention, and hopefully this is obvious, but Jesus says to love our enemies, and peace is of course a good thing. Luke 6 verses 27 through 36 is a great passage for people who want to know what Jesus has to say about loving your enemies. And I'll read just the first two verses, 27 and 28, and it says, "But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who spitefully use you." So when I make videos talking about these things, of course, I'm not saying we shouldn't be loving our enemies or anything like that. Of course we should. That's a very foundational biblical fact and teaching of Jesus. But the reason I focus on these things and point these out is because we know in the last days there will be a one world control system, one world government, and it will come in the name of false peace, or peace at first, but it will lead ultimately to the destruction of the entire world. And we know this from many Bible verses. The most common of this and the prophecy of this is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. For when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. We also know in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that the coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan with power, signs, and lying wonders. And in that chapter it says that for this reason God sends them a strong delusion that they should believe the lie. We also know in Revelation 13 that the Antichrist is healed from his deadly head wound, and then after that he and his image is worshipped by everyone in the entire world, and those who don't worship him will be killed. Lastly, we also know of the peace deal in Daniel 9:27 that will go on in the last days that will eventually be broken by the Antichrist. And the reason that all matters is because that's the system that we're seeing set up. A system of world peace, a system of world governments and religions coming together, setting up this system where everyone is saying peace and safety, ultimately accompanied by satanic signs and wonders and miracles, deceiving clearly the majority of the world, or just the majority of people who are not set aside to follow after Jesus Christ. So a massive number of people, because broad is the gate and wide is the way that leads to hell, many people will be deceived by these things. And that's why it matters, because we're seeing this being set up right now as we speak. So we're seeing this on a governmental level with the Abrahamic Accords Summit that just took place again in Rome, which I think is a high likelihood that they are Mystery Babylon. But we're also seeing what's happening in Abu Dhabi with the Abrahamic family religions coming together at the Abrahamic Family House Center, which is almost complete, will be complete weeks, I believe, into 2023. Here is an update on that, and here's a picture of it. A tweet someone tweeted saying it's almost done. The one on the right is a church, the one in the middle is a synagogue, and the one on the left is a mosque. Again, so Jesus tells us, love your enemies, do good to those who persecute you, which many people in the Middle East who are Christians are heavily persecuted by the Islamic faith. And even in Israel, sadly, they don't treat kindly to pretty much anybody who doesn't follow Judaism, which is why we need to be praying for the people in Islam and the people who are in Judaism, because these people need to realize Jesus is the Messiah. But this doesn't mean we at all should compromise the truth of the gospel. Galatians 1:8 says, but even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel to you than what we have preached to you, let him be accursed. So that's even a huge difference in comparison to just religions coming together and being kind, and people are kind of listening like, well, maybe we should have a unifying gospel. And people are buying into that, let alone the fact in this verse says, if an angel came down from heaven, I mean, imagine if an angel came down from heaven and said that we should all come together, then people definitely would be on board in just comparison to just the earthly systems saying this. But this verse in Galatians tells us no matter anyone who tries to tell you any other gospels besides the gospel of Jesus Christ that we know, then they are telling a lie and we shouldn't believe anything that they should say. It says, let him be accursed. 2 Corinthians 11:14-15 also confirms that we need to be very diligent and discerning at what we are paying attention to in the last days. And it says, and no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their works. So when we see people in these world systems, in these religious systems rising up, and they seem to be ministers of righteousness and a minister of light and goodness, they very well are just a minister actually of Satan if they are not preaching the absolute truth that Jesus Christ alone is the only way to heaven. Again, we know another verse of the Bible prophecy that is coming in the last days surrounding this one world religion, and that is in 1 Timothy 4:1, and it says, now the Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some will depart from the faith, giving heed to deceiving spirits and doctrines of demons. Which any doctrine that teaches anything besides the truth of salvation in Jesus Christ alone is a doctrine of demon. A doctrine of demon doesn't have to be just like some absolute satanic thing of rituals and things and evil that we would imagine a doctrine of demon being. Even a doctrine of, well, all roads lead to God, and everybody, if you're a good person, then you're going to heaven. That's a doctrine of demons as well, because it leads people to hell. And that's exactly what demons and Satan wants. So truly, it's pretty clear to see that these are the systems, the end times world systems being set up of one world government, one world religion, and it's a complete fallacy and lie that we should be following these in the respect of that there is some sort of salvation and unity that we should be achieving. Of course, we should be getting along. We should even be talking to other religions and other denominations, saying, how can we better each other and be good to each other? Of course, that is a gospel principle that Jesus, I would believe, would of course want us to do as well. But within that narrative and within that conversation, Jesus, if it was him in this situation, and followers of Jesus, the number one goal in that case should be teaching the truth and teaching the message that Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. He's the only way to the Father. John 14:6 confirms that. And so salvation is found in him alone. And that has to be the leading narrative and the leading message in all of this that's going on. So if that's not the case, then we need to be suspect of what's going on. And within it all, we need to be always paying attention and knowing that these prophecies will come to pass of peace, safety, unity, all of these things that the Bible said would happen in the last days. So we just need to keep the gospel message as the forefront of this whole conversation. And so sharing the truth about Jesus Christ, that needs to be our main mission and our main focus while we are here on this earth. That is the reason we're here. So we need to keep that at the forefront. Hopefully that encourages you. Let's not forget to keep that as our main focus. Thanks for watching, and 2 things that are important to living a guided and fulfilling Christian life are obedience and intimacy with Jesus. If you do those 2 things, live in obedience to him and his ways, and you are intimately seeking him deeper constantly and always growing in him and seeking him more daily, then that is how you can have a fulfilling and guided and understanding life in him. Thanks for watching, and God bless.